Good morning, everyone. Topic for this morning is right thought. Now, maybe before beginning this speech, I should give you a little illustration which happened to me this morning. You see, what happened was that I bought a clock from a friend, and after putting in the battery, these days you got battery-operated clocks. It's a kind of a desk clock. It didn't work. So I returned it to a friend, and the friend says, never mind, I will see if I can get it fixed. Now, so my friend got it fixed, and last night I got back my clock. All right, and seemingly the clock worked, So last night I set the clock at about 12:30 a.m. So I put in the battery, and the second hands went around, tuck, 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 tuck. Very happy. So this morning when I got up, I was thinking about the talk, and as I was writing, I looked at the clock and saw that the time was 12:30 again. So obviously the trouble with this clock was that while the second hands moved, the hour and minutes hand remained stationary. So I had to bring back the clock again to see whether it can be fixed. Now the reason why I brought up this story is because I think it is something very relevant to us. Now many of us, when we have come to the temple, have called ourselves Buddhist, right? Now it is good that after we have taken the Buddha, the Dharma and the Sangha as our refuge, we should ask ourselves this question: in what ways have I changed since I took up Buddhism? All right? Now, in what ways have I really changed since I have taken up Buddhism? We might have perhaps read books about Buddhism. You might have heard talks about Buddhism. You might even participate in Dhamma discussions. All right? And maybe by now, many of you, I think if you're asked to come in front here to say a few words about Buddhism, you might be able to. But the important thing is, did we do anything about it? Have we changed our life in accordance to our understanding? Or are we just like this desk clock? Whereas the second hands move, it sounds as if, we know a lot of things, a lot of activity, tuck, 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 moving. But the hand and the minute, the minute and the hour hand remains perfectly stationary. That means we have not done anything to change our life, and we remain exactly the same as before when we have taken up the Buddhist life. Okay, so maybe we should learn something from this clock this morning. When we say, in what ways have I changed? Let us ask ourselves this question. What have I given up? Have you given up anything? Have you given up your old habits, your old prejudices, all the bad things that you used to do? The kind of habits which drive people crazy to the wall? Okay? Have we abandoned all these things? On the other hand, what have I cultivated? Are there some good qualities that we are developing now since we have taken up this Buddhist way of life? Now let us ask this question seriously. Now sometimes when we ask this question of what have I done to my life, whether to change it, in what ways have I made an improvement to my life since I've understood Buddhism, sometimes there seems to be a separation between, on one hand, understanding, on the other hand, practice. Whereas we might be convinced of certain good reasons why we must change, but we cannot make ourselves to change it. Isn't it? Sometimes we know that, this is something which we shouldn't do, but we do. There's something which we should do because it's good, but we don't do, right? Now what is wrong? What is wrong? Is it something which is wrong with our mind? Sometimes we can be very convinced of certain good reasons why we should like to do certain kind of things, but we do not do it because we lack the strength, the willingness, the motivation of taking the steps to do it. So the right emotions, the right motivation is very important in the practice of a religious life. Now last week, Chief Reverend have spoken on the first noble truth, the first factor of the Eightfold Path, that is right understanding. Right understanding could be understood as a kind of a vision, because right understanding is just not putting information in our head. That's not enough. Right understanding is a realization of certain universal truth, certain characteristics of life itself. And it is this insight, this wisdom which arises within us, that suddenly a vision opens up before us. And we see this is the way that we would like to live our life. This is the way to liberation. So this is what we call right understanding. In other words, it is the path of vision. You see ahead of you a vision. So the first factor of the Noble Eightfold Path is a vision that lies before us. And the most wonderful thing that the Buddha gave us, the Buddha, our teacher, gave us, is this vision. This vision of liberation, of freedom, of complete freedom from our defilements, and to be a completely free person. Okay? So this is what we call right understanding. And the 7 other factors is the path of transformation. How can we go about changing ourselves in line with this vision that we see ahead of us? Okay? Now, in this path of transformation, the right thought is the first one. So you have right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Now, in subsequent week, there will be other speakers who will be talking to you about the other things. All right? So I'm just going to talk to you about the first factor in the path of transformation. Now, there was a story of this Chinese emperor. You know, in China, they had everything in the past. They have got silk, they have invented printing, they have even invented the wheelbarrow and a lot of other things. And the Chinese were perfectly happy during those times, but they had one thing which was missing, and that was Buddhism. So they used to send many monks over to India. The monks went to the West, not to America, but to India. They say, we like to go to the West, through the Silk Road. By that time, the West was India. And they used to come back with Dharma books, they come back with translations, with more news about Buddhism. And there were also many famous teachers in the northern India and Central Asia who came over to China. So there was this Indian teacher, a very famous Indian teacher who went over to China. So this emperor was of course excited, like to find out from this teacher what Buddhism is. So after receiving this monk in a very, very grand way and inviting the monk to the palace and all that, this emperor asked the monk, can you, Reverend Sir, please tell me in very short words, what is the fundamental essence of the Dhamma? So very eager to listen. Well, this monk said, try to cease from doing evil, to do good, and to purify your mind. And this emperor was, of course, very disappointed when he heard this. He said, like that, just like that. Like that, even 3-year-old boy also can understand, not very hard. And he says, it's true, Your Majesty, but even an 80-year-old man will find difficulty in practicing this quality. And this also comes back to this point again of what we are saying about right thought. You might have some understanding that you must avoid evil, do good, and purify your mind. But if you don't have the right kind of thought and emotion to accompany that, you will still not make any move to transform yourself. Now, this second factor in Pali is called Samma Sankappa. Samma is spelled as S-A-M-M-A, not S-A-M-A, Samma. People say, this is Visit Malaysia year. They say that when tourists come to this country, you can teach them some words of Malay. The very first word that they should learn is sama. When people say selamat pagi, you say sama-sama. People say terima kasih, you say sama-sama. You say selamat jalan, sama-sama. People say you are a bit bodoh, you say sama-sama. You can get away with sama-sama. But this is what you call Samma Sankappa. It doesn't mean the same thing. Now, Samma sometimes have been translated as right. But right, sometimes people think, this is right and that is wrong. Now, this Samma is not to be understood that way. It's not like right and wrong kind of thing. Samma is something which is complete. It's got a sense of complete. Say, when you say right understanding, it's a kind of a complete understanding, all-encompassing understanding, or perfect understanding. And when we say Samma Sankappa, now what is Sankappa? Sankappa have often been translated as thought. So, we translate right thought. But it can also be understood as right intention. So Sankappa is also intention, purpose. But still this is sometimes not even satisfactory. We should sometimes say it is will to do, or even emotions. So Samma Sankappa can be understood as whole or perfect emotions, perfect will to want to do something. So it just go beyond right thought, because some people think, right thought and wrong thought. Very easy one. I think all correct one. All correct. What? So therefore I got right thought. No, not like that. Sama Sankappa means perfect emotions. That you have got the motivation, the right, the good, wholesome motivation to want to do certain things. Okay? So, Sama Sankappa is very important because this is the emotional part of us that will try to complement the right understanding. So the right understanding, as I mentioned just now, you have your vision. Okay, if you have your vision, you need something else. You need to have the right kind of motivation and emotion in order to translate this vision into realization. Okay, so it is the emotional part of that right understanding. It is very important. Now, emotions are very strong. Emotions are very powerful. In fact, we can think of emotions as petrol. You got a beautiful flashy car, or you got Porsche, or some people say Porsche. You got a nice Porsche, very, very nice looking. But if you don't have, you run out of oil, you don't run out of fuel, you can't travel. Just like this. You might have the most fantastic theories in the world. You might have the most fantastic religion or the most fantastic philosophy in this world. But if you do not have the right emotion, the right motivation, your car won't move. Like there are some people who involve themselves in very dry philosophy. They can sit down and argue for hours and hours. They split the hair, chop the hair into pieces. Argument like this, argue like that, but they won't act. So that is not very useful. The Buddha says a person may recite thousands and thousands of verses without meaning, devoid meaning. That's not very useful. Compared to another person, just recite one sentence, one line cukup. But that line, if he puts that into practice, that is more than enough. I don't have to recite 1,000 verses. Just like this. So emotions are something very powerful. Sometimes we find that there is a separation, a big gulf between what we should be doing and what we are doing now. And the problem is because maybe the emotion not there yet. The emotion to want to do, to act. Now, if we search within our hearts we find that there are a lot of hidden tendencies, a lot of accumulated habits, a lot of desire, and a lot of things. There are a lot of things in our minds which we don't know. What we know is the rational part of the mind, the thinking logical mind. The mind which can play with concepts, the mind that can add 2 + 2 = 4. That is the thinking kind of mind. But below this rational mind is a whole huge thing which lies within us. Modern psychologists call this a subconscious mind. A subconscious mind. Everything you experience goes through your subconscious mind. And that is why we are different. That's why I'm different from you and you're different from your neighbor. And everyone is different. Even you have got 2 twins born few minutes apart, yet they're different. Because of the experiences, because of their subconscious mind. Okay? Now, that is why we say that emotions are very strong. This aspect of the mind is very strong. And therefore we should try to utilize it in order to change ourselves. So, in spiritual practice, it is not merely enough to gather knowledge. Knowledge is only one level. Just knowledge, rational understanding not enough. You must try to internalize that knowledge. Make it as part of your system. Just like when you learn how to drive a car. You attend a class on how to drive a car or how to swim. Have you tried reading a book on how to swim? The telephone call, you put in your hand like this and you put the water in your finger. Don't open your hand too widely, just open like that. Don't cup it too much. And then you pull it to the back and your leg left, right. So each time when you beat 1, 2, 1, 2, so put your hand left in, and as you pull up your right hand like this, you breathe in. Okay, so after reading a book 2 or 3 times, you think, I think I know how to swim. That is the rational part. You know how it is done. But in you go into the water and you'll be struggling, trying to save yourself. So when you start putting that in practice, then it gets internalized. Then the next time when you jump into the water, you don't feel like drowning. At least you can swim onto the other side. Or at least you can remain afloat for a little while for somebody to throw a rope into the water or something. So this is internalization. You make that knowledge a part of your system and you live. Put it into practice. This is also very, very important in a spiritual life. So, we should try to tap the positive emotions that lie within ourselves and harness it for spiritual growth. Within ourselves are a lot of emotions. We've got both positive and negative emotions. Down here, emotions, we mean also will, intention. In fact, in Buddhism, when we talk about wisdom, wisdom doesn't mean just the rational part of the mind. Doesn't mean the thinking part of the mind. Doesn't mean, oh, how many noble truths are there? Oh, there are 4 noble truths. How many 4 paths are there? There are 8 4 paths. How many faculties are there? There are 5 faculties. Not just like that. Not just remembering facts. But we must go much more than that. We must be able to harness this knowledge and put them into practice. So within ourselves, we've got both the positive and the negative factors. Now, of course, in our practice of our spiritual life, those negative factors are the things that we should choose to overcome. All our bad tendencies and all that. We should try to overcome in stages and not immediately. It is quite difficult to change immediately. We take time. The Buddha says like the ocean bed deepens gradually. Gradually, we get rid of this bad tendencies. This is what we call renunciation. Give up. Give up. Sometimes we don't want to give up, but give up for our own good. And on the other hand, there are some other kind of things that we should try to cultivate. And now today, I'm going to talk about what are the kind of things that we should give up and what are the kind of things that we should cultivate in terms of our emotion side. Now, under Sama Sankappa, you could state it both negatively as well as positively. Now, what are the negatively ways, I should say, negatively stated? There are some factors which are negatively stated. You got tongue twisted. There are 3 really. One is what you call non-desire. Second is non-hate. Third is non-cruelty. Okay, so these are, you always say non. So that's why you say negatively stated. Okay, but besides say non, the other part must be do. Okay, what do you do? So this is what you call positively stated. Like dana, giving, metta, love, karuna, compassion, mudita, sympathetic joy, upekkha, tranquility, saddha, faith. So these are the positive part of the kind of emotions that we should help to cultivate. Now let us talk about the negatively stated factors that we should try to cultivate also, but it's negatively stated. The first is what we call nekama. Nekama, anybody knows what is nekama? I just said just now. Renunciation or what? Non-desire, non-clinging. Now actually this renunciation is when people realize the nature of things, that things are not satisfactory, that things are impermanent, that they understand that things, that conditioned existence is not satisfactory. Their greediness subside, and they are prepared to let go. Letting go, just opening up the hands and letting go. Now as long as we don't see it, as long as we see things as desirable, we try to hold on to cling, isn't it? As long as we say, wow, it is permanent, it is very good, it's desirable, so we go and cling on to it. But when we begin to look at it closely and say, no, it's not as desirable as what it is impermanent, there is nothing to cling, then we let go. And this is what we call nekama, letting go. Letting go. To be less greedy, to be less selfish. So it is important to ask ourselves this question, since I have taken up Buddhism, what have I given up? Do we still go along the same old ways, same old habits? Sometimes we keep on repeating the same old things, doing the same, running into the same habit, getting into the same problems. Sometimes the problem can be that we talk too much. Sometimes, we talk, and then we get into trouble. Sometimes, especially when we hear information, cannot keep the information to ourselves. First thing is the moment we get information, wow, must tell, hey, you know what happened? And start telling everybody, and then get into trouble, right? So sometimes it is the mouth, and we know, this mouth terrible, Every time get into trouble, even get into trouble with the boss, but still cannot control. So next time must walk with a plaster. Number one, want to talk, only close the mouth. So this is what we call a habit. Sometimes hard. So next time when we have this kind of tendency, we should try to check it. Especially like sometimes making criticisms. Now since we have chosen to be a Buddhist, we should try to be less sarcastic Very sarcastic to people. And sometimes very malicious, and sometimes our mind also like that. Sometimes just want to cause problem to other people. Now, if we have that kind of tendency, the next time when it arises, we check it. When we want to talk bad about people, we must check it. Otherwise, there's no renunciation. Otherwise, what kind of a Buddhist are you? I mean, not to say you're perfect, but we must make the effort to give up our old ways. Now, of course, different people give up different things. Okay? There are some people, when they become a Buddhist, they start giving up certain kind of things. Whereas in your case, when you become a Buddhist, you might want to give up some other set of things. But generally, when we become Buddhists, our life must be simpler. We must lead a simpler life. And our minds must be clearer, less cluttered, less crowded with things. If you find that your life is getting more and more complex, if your mind is becoming more and more crowded, there must be something wrong with your practice. You better check out. Better check. Okay? And in renunciation, it is not so much as giving up. There are some people say, wow, when I become a Buddhist, I must give up everything. I must give up my car, give up my house, give up my job, and become a monk or become a nun. Not like that. Some parents also say, what? Every day you want to go to the temple? You go to the temple, you become a monk, or you become a nun, you want to become a nun. Not like that. Sometimes people misunderstand. Of all the people who come to the temple, how many of us become monks or nuns? I don't mean only for 2 weeks. I mean, you take it quite seriously for a longer time. No. Actually, when you become a Buddhist, when your renunciation, it is not so much as giving up, but more of growing up. Not giving up, but growing up. What do we mean by growing up? Now, when you're a little kid, if you're a girl, you like to play with toys, dolls. Right? Girls like to dress up dolls, Barbie dolls. But of course, in your days, maybe you don't have Barbie dolls. The dolls might be a bit more rough. For the boys, you play with guns. You're all like myself. I want to be Tarzan. So put a little knife down there in the trousers. Become a Tarzan and climb trees. All right. But when you become older, when you grow up to be older, do you want still to be Tarzan? Do you still want to walk around in your Batman suit? Batman! No, isn't it? You become shy, to become a Batman. And you do not want to play with your toys anymore. What happened? Because you have grown up. And because you have grown up, you do not want to play with your toys anymore. In the same way, when we become grown up, as we mature spiritually, there are a lot of things that we're prepared to let go. So this is what we call renunciation. You give it up without grudge, ungrudgingly, without saying, ayo, okay, take lah, but I'm not happy, take lah, but I'm not happy. Not like that. Renunciation, we give up with an open heart and open hand, because we have grown up and we don't require it anymore. So that is what we call non-desire or renunciation. That's what we call nekama. That's what we call right thought. To cultivate the feeling of renunciation, letting go. Doesn't mean just cutting off your hair, Letting go in so many ways. Giving up the bad things. Let go. Giving up clinging. Giving up selfishness. The second thing that we should also try to cultivate is what we call Aryapada. Aryapada means non-violence or non-hate. Non-hate. Now, of course, when we talk about hatred is connected with craving. Hatred is connected with craving. When we want to crave for something and when we cannot get it, and then we get frustrated. That's when the hate comes out. We get very angry. We get very frustrated. Hatred comes out. So, you see, hatred and craving is actually the same thing. Craving is when the thing is desirable. Hatred is when the thing is not desirable. And then anger arises. Okay? And bitterness arises. So, therefore, in the practice of Buddhism, we should try to give up craving. When we give up craving, our hatred will also become less and less. You will also give up your hatred. Now let us ask ourselves this question. Since we become a Buddhist, have our temple become better? Not temple become better, Not temple. Of course, building sure temple become better. But has our temple become better? Sometimes we can also ask those people who are close to us, have you become more even-minded? Or have you become more hot-tempered? Now, if we become a Buddhist, we should actually reduce our temper and become more even-minded. And even when people do certain kind of things, which is not entirely satisfactory to us, we must prepare to kind of let go. Don't cling, don't keep it to the heart. Some people, they don't only keep the heart, they keep it in the bone marrow, and keep it for cold storage. Carry it to them until they go to the ground and get buried later on. And don't be like that, let go. Don't hold that grudge within our hearts. Even some things which are not satisfactory, because we find that this entire life is not satisfactory. Nothing in the whole existence is satisfactory. And in fact, this you can really understand when you try sitting down for meditation. When you sit down for meditation, your body, which you think is okay, suddenly here pain, there pain, everywhere pain. Then change posture. Shift the leg that way. At 5 minutes, okay. 10 minutes, okay. 15, 20 minutes, pain again. Then maybe change cushion, okay. From thin cushion, put thick cushion. You sit on a thick cushion. At first, very comfortable. Then after you begin to slouch. And then back, okay, do one, change, put a mat. Body can say, painful. The ground is hot. Then we realize that even this body is it's not really satisfactory. No matter what you do, there is no position which is perfectly satisfactory. And then we begin to let go. Instead of when you have pain, don't say, my hand pain, pain. We let go. We just watch, pain, arising and falling of pain. It's just a kind of a mental phenomena, the rising and falling, something which flows. So you can let go. So next time when somebody say something to you which you don't like, say, sound. Don't say, he's scolding me. How can he do that? Let go. Let go. Cultivate non-hate. This is the second factor. The third factor is what we call avihimsa. Avihimsa means non-cruelty. And this is something we should also cultivate as what we call right emotion or, perfect emotion. Avihimsa, non-cruelty. Now sometimes people derive pleasure in causing pain to others. Sometimes we see this in kids. Kids, sometimes they go and kick dog. And each time when you kick the dog will howl. And they kind of enjoy it. Because actually they do not know that the dog is in pain. They don't know. They think, each time when you kick the dog, go, ow, like that. And they think, it's very nice. You see? So it is very important that when kids are like that, we must advise them. Just like the Buddha advised 4 boys when they were, this bird has got a broken wing. So they were actually being cruel to the bird. So the Buddha came to them and said that, if somebody were to poke you in your hand, would you feel the pain? Is it painful? And they says, yes. And he says, do you think that even this bird, this bird also feels painful when you're poked like that? And then they begin to realize, if I feel pain, the bird also feels pain. Okay, so we must try to cultivate this kind of emotions in kids. But again, even as adults, we also sometimes have a streak of cruelty. Sometimes we can see we can see this sometimes in ourselves, sometimes we can see this in our loved ones, or sometimes we can see this in our bosses, or even in our subordinates. Streak of cruelty. And sometimes when somebody is in an unfortunate position, they like to come to you, I told you so, and just, don't they hear it? This I told you so is terrible. You told him, but he does it. I told you so, don't say that. It just make a person feel uncomfortable. No, sometimes when we catch ourselves having this streak of cruelty, check ourselves. Because sometimes people cause pain to others without realizing it. Sometimes we might cause pain to others by our actions, but sometimes even in our speech. Sometimes the kind of things we say to others cause them pain. Now, when we begin to realize that, check that. This is also a form of cruelty. So, under Sama Sankappa, put this kind of checks in our mind. There was a picture of, it's a kind of a 4-piece picture about where can cruelty lead a person. First, you have this little boy torturing a dog. In the first picture, you see him torturing a dog. In the second picture, he became a youth already, and he hit a horse to death. In the third picture, he was caught in the act of murder. So he was caught because he committed murder. In the fourth picture, he was being cut. His body was being cut by a team of surgeons because after he had been hanged. So dead body, they cut his body into pieces. So you can see sometimes it begins from a child, begins very small, and then by the time it grows up, what happens? So we must always check. We must always check this kind of tendencies that we see in other people as well as in ourselves. Alright, so these are the 3 factors which are negatively stated. Can you remember what they are? First is what? renunciation, nekama, or non-desire. Second is non-hate, or aryapada, non-violence. Third is non-cruelty, avihimsa. So this is negatively stated. Okay, but it doesn't mean these are negative qualities to develop. Only negatively stated. On the other hand, there are some factors which are positively stated. Now we begin with dana, dana or charity. This one is okay because I think we have given a lot of talks on dana. Okay, I will quickly summarize what is dana. Dana is just giving, trying to overcome selfishness, clinging, sharing with others what we have. Well, you can give material things. And there are some people who are slave to giving, or servant to giving. Servant to giving means you give things which you don't want. Completely very old shoes which you don't want. Food which has gone bad which you don't want. Then you give to people. This is what you call servant of giving. It's still good, They still practice giving. But not so good yet, Then there's another one which you call friend of giving. This is you give to people things which you yourself will use. They're good things. Then you've got what you call master of giving. Master of giving is the one who gives things, very good things, even better than what they will use for themselves, they give for other people. So we should try to see what kind of a giver we are. Are we a servant, a giver? Are we a friend giver, or are we a master giver? Alright? So we can give material things. And number two, you can give like time, energy, thought, ideas. That is also some kind of dana as well. Then another form of dana is also giving knowledge. You give knowledge. Sharing the Dhamma with other people. Even if you cannot write a Dhamma book like our most venerable teacher, K.C. Dhammananda, our chief reverend, even if you cannot write a book like him, you can still contribute. Like you might want to give donations for the publication of book. Even if you do not donate for this thing, you can always take one or two books and give to a friend. But of course, when we say give to a friend, just don't give to anybody. Don't think that these are free books, booklets. The books are not free. The books need money to be printed. They are only for free distribution. So make sure that you give it to somebody and encourage him to read, and also maybe check with him. The next time you see him, you say, oh, have you read the book which I give to you? Now, if you've forgotten the book, forgotten to read, you say, oh, I forgot. And then maybe, you try to make it in your conversation so that he will make an effort to read, and so that's something for you to discuss. And then maybe, you try to make it in your conversation so that he will make an effort to read, and so that's something for you to discuss. So just don't give just like that. Encourage a person also. So this is also another way of saying giving of knowledge. That is what we call dana. And then maybe, you try to make it in your conversation so that he will make an effort to read, and so that's something for you to discuss. So just don't give just like that. So encourage a person also. So this is also another way of saying giving of knowledge. That is what we call dana. Another one is giving of fearlessness. You can also give charity as a form of charity. Fearlessness. What do you mean by fearlessness? That means you don't threaten other people. You don't threaten the life of other living beings. So they have fearlessness. Then you could have giving of life, giving of parts of your body also can. This is another form of charity. And then you have giving of Dhamma. Juna was knowledge. This is giving of Dhamma. Giving of Dhamma is, earlier giving of knowledge is just giving whatever knowledge you have. Giving of Dhamma is like what I mentioned just now. Now according to the Buddha, giving of Dhamma is the greatest gift. It is greatest. Because if you give food for a person, he will be, that you can cure his hunger just for a little while, then he'll become hungry again. If you give money to a person, he'll finish the money very quickly. Doesn't mean that you should give when you can. But if you give a person Dhamma, he can actually cure himself from suffering. He can free himself from the samsara. That's why it's considered to be the greatest gift. Alright, so this is dana. I think all of you experts by now. Charity. I'm sure you have heard a lot of dana. Okay, so this is the first emotion. Very important for us to start off by wanting to give, wanting to share, wanting to let go of some of the things which we have, and allow other people to share, to be less stingy. Second positive factor is metta. Metta is what we call loving kindness. Again, I am sure if you come to the temple many times, you would have heard of talks about metta many times, I'm sure. Metta means universal friendliness. That you become friendly to everyone. You wish them well. And you see, there are two ways of looking at metta. First is you look at yourself and you say, now what is it that I would like to wish this body and mind of mine? Now I want my mind to be free from worries, from suffering, from anguish, from jealousy. I want to have a clear, peaceful mind. Isn't it? A mind free from worries. What do you want to wish this body? You want this body to be free from sickness, to be free from various harm and danger. And you want to be happy. So in the same way, by extension, just as you yourself would like to be happy, may the others be happy as well. Even if he's my enemy, don't you think that he too wants to be happy? Don't you think that he also wants to be free from worries? Don't you think that he also want to be free from harm and danger? So let me wish all beings well. Just like the sun would radiate the warm rays to everyone evenly, even so would I radiate thoughts of loving kindness to all. The sun doesn't say, oh, I like you very much, so I give you very strong sunlight, you turn very dark. And the other one, I don't like you, so don't give you any sunlight. So the sun shines its rays evenly on everyone. So even so must we cultivate a universal heart, a heart which wishes the whole world well, all beings well. This is what we call metta. And in Pali we've got these words which say Sabbe Satta Sukhi Hontu. What is Sabbe Satta Sukhi Hontu? What does it mean? Anybody? I don't have any prizes to be given this morning, I'm sorry, but anybody like to guess what that is? May all beings be happy. Sabbe means all. Satta means beings. Sukhi Hontu. Sukhi is sukha. Sukhi Hontu. May they be happy. May they be well. May they be happy. So Sabbe Satta Sukhi Hontu. May all beings be well and happy. But of course in metta, it is not something which is developed by chance. It's not like this morning I got lots of metta, next morning no metta. Metta is something which we can cultivate. We can cultivate, as there is a technique on how to cultivate metta, positive emotions. And when we cultivate metta, there are a lot of good benefits. No time to talk about it. But you got 11 fantastic benefits when you practice metta. You live longer, you live better, you have a very peaceful life. The third factor is karuna. What is karuna? Compassion. Cultivation of compassion. Now when we have metta is wishing everybody well. But when we see somebody suffering, that metta becomes karuna. Compassion, because someone is suffering. We want to relieve someone of suffering. And this is very good for somebody in the medical profession or in the caring profession like nursing and all that. You're given a lot of ample opportunities to look after another person. And so if a nurse or a doctor does his job very well, he is actually creating a lot of merits, incredible merits, because a lot of opportunity for him to practice compassion. Of course, there are some nurses, unfortunately, not so compassionate. Actually, when they come around, the patient becomes more sick. The patient says, oh, please, nurse, don't come. Don't give me the injection, please. Very non-compassionate. They take injection, just like that. Don't care about the patient. Ayyo, it's terrible. So we have to kind of cultivate compassion. In fact, this quality of compassion has been emphasized so much that sometimes in some teachers of Buddhism, they say that even if you do not know anything about other qualities, never mind. As long as you practice compassion, that's good enough. Just start off with compassion. If you practice compassion, other good qualities will come. And now, in order to illustrate this fact, let me tell you a Japanese story. Arigatou gozaimasu. Japanese story. It's a new Japanese story. It seems that there was this man, a young man who wasted a lot of his life. There are many ways people waste their life. They go out drinking, they go out womanizing, they waste all their money, inheritance all finished. And he, jolly you say jolly, spending all his time enjoying himself. And I guess he is like any person after wasting his life, he comes to a stage when he begins to reflect. Now, what have I got? What have I done? And he thinks that this life which I have lived, I don't know how long he lived, maybe 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, is completely lived in waste, useless. Let me try to do something about myself. So he decided to want to become a monk. Not that he really wanted to become a monk, but he found that he couldn't do anything else which is really good except to become a monk. So he went to this temple. And in Japan, traditionally, when you want to become a monk, it seems that you have to kneel 3 days in the snow outside the temple. This is according to the tradition, but I'm not sure whether you do things like that these days. Can you imagine people having to kind of kneel down outside, and then Chief Reverend come out and say, "Oh, only first day, I'll come out in the fourth day and see you." No. Tradition in China also like that. They kneel for 3 days and say, "Oh, I want to be a monk." So the monk came out and said, "Okay, what do you want, he says, tell me about yourself." And so this man said, "Oh, I was like this, like this, like this, like this." And I said, "Wow, terrible life." He said, "Okay." So this chief monk asked one of the other monk, he says, he asked this young man, "What is it that you can do? Everything also you cannot do. What is it that you can do?" And then he thought for a while, he says, "Well, actually, I think I can play chess, Chess. Not bad, I can play chess. Not bad." So this old monk says, chief monk says, "Please call the old monk from the kitchen. There is one old monk who can play chess." So this old monk came and they brought a chess board. And this chief monk says, "Bring my samurai sword." Put the samurai sword in front. He says, "Okay, play chess. The one he lose, chop off head." Okay? Wow, this young man sweat. Calls that, make a move. The old monk, make a move. Wow, this old monk, not bad, Make another move. Wow, make a move. So they move, and he felt he was trapped. Then, very quickly, he made another strategy. He managed to escape from the trap. And then he put his pincers, the style, and he saw that this old monk is going to lose. 3 more steps for this old man. Okay, what is his step now? Sweat pouring down. He doesn't want to die. He doesn't want to have his head chopped off. And then this old monk also knew that he was trapped. Okay? And this old monk also sweat. Then he looked at this monk. And he looked at himself. He says, this monk has been practicing, Dharma for 30, 40 years. Has been a good person. Practiced meditation and all that. Such a full life. And he must die. And look at me. Young person. I wasted my life. I was a useless person. And yet, how can I bear to let this monk die? So this monk moved, because he had to move that way. And this man moved in another way. So the trap was open. Okay? And this monk could move again. Then again, he did again. Checkmate again. But he opened up the trap again. And now this chief monk was sitting down there. Then chief monk said, "Stop the game. This game, no winner, no loser." Okay, so, and he could see, and he accepted this young man as a monk. Why? Because even as he was a wastrel, the chief monk could see that within him was compassion. And if anybody has got compassion, things are not lost. There is still hope for him to cultivate other virtues. So compassion is very important. So if you don't remember anything, just remember this story now. So what is this? Because he spoke about right thought, but he told a story about this man who plays chess. Okay? Okay? There's some other virtues which I shall discuss quite quickly. One more virtue which we should cultivate is what we call mudita. Mudita means sympathetic joy. Sympathetic joy means when other people are successful, we also become happy. We join in their happiness. Sometimes when other people become successful, some people feel not so happy. In fact, some people, when they get into trouble, then they feel a little happy. Sometimes you find it among brothers and sisters. One of the brothers and sisters cannot scolding. Or the parent come and cane. The other one say, "Oh, good. He's a terrible guy. Give me a hard time. Good. Now, that is not sympathetic joy. Check the mind. We must cultivate this sympathetic joy, this happiness that other people become successful. Just like compassion, when other people have trouble, we develop a compassionate heart. We want to try to help them out. When other people are happy, are successful, we join in the happiness. It is a very good frame of mind to be happy when other people are happy, rather than to develop envy and hatred. When other people become happy, become, oh, so miserable, sit in the corner, miserable. Why? Because that person is happy. Some people are like that. We should develop the happiness when other people are happy. Then the other one is developing upekkha, which is tranquility of the mind, evenness of the mind. Okay? Evenness of the mind means that the mind is not so easily swayed by changing worldly conditions, by happiness and by success and failure. So the mind is very steady. The mind doesn't go up and down like that. And the last good factor, positive factor, not to say that these are the only factors, but this is the only factor in my list this morning, is what we call saddha. Saddha means faith. Cultivation of faith. Faith is very important. That is why we should encourage people to come, to do chanting, to do a puja. Some people they don't understand this. They think, oh, I'm very educated. Maybe I finished my professional exam. I'm a professional, or I'm a manager, or whatever it is. Or I'm very educated. I finished my Form 5, And then therefore, I don't think I want to come to the temple to pray, pray superstitious. Not like that. You must understand that if we can do puja in a proper frame of mind, we have to cultivate our heart and cultivate our mind. When we cultivate our heart, we cultivate our mind. So devotion is very good. Do you know that through faith alone you can become Buddha? There are 3 ways that a person can become a Sammasambuddha. Do you know that? Now Gautama the Buddha became the Buddha, his strength was wisdom, Panya. There are some Buddhists, Sammasambuddhas in the past who became Buddhas because of virya, because of energy. And there are some people who became Sammasambuddha through faith, through saddha. So faith is very important. So puja is very important. If possible, if you have a house, have an altar and be quite consistent. Develop cultivation of faith. Very good. Because faith is a cleansing factor. Faith helps to purify the mind. Okay? Purification of the mind. Purify your heart. So develop faith in the Triple Gem. Very, very good. Okay? So, these are the positive emotions that we should cultivate. The first one is, can you remember? Dana, charity. Second, metta. Third, karuna. Then, mudita, upekkha. This is, many of you know, metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha. This is what we call 4 Brahma Viharas. And then, one more, what do you call? Saddha, or cultivation of faith. Okay? So, I mentioned to you about some positive emotions that we should cultivate. One is negatively stated. One group is positively stated. Now, there are some kind of conditions which can help us to cultivate this practice. As we go about in this life, we should try to associate with people who appreciates this quality, who helps us to grow. That is why it is important for we Buddhists to get together in some kind of a fellowship, in some kind of community. That fellowship can be like coming to the temple, mixing with Buddhist friends, especially those people who practice the Dhamma, so that you can actually discuss about it. This is what you call a spiritual community. You become spiritual. And through this kind of helping each other, encouraging each other, giving advice to one another, giving materials to one another, we can help each other grow. Friends must be like that. Some of our friends are like kittens. Kittens are very nice. They come and rub themselves against us. And we like to cuddle them. But these friends actually don't help us to grow. Some of our friends are like kittens. There are some of our friends who are like lions. Actually, we're scared of them. But they're very good. One word they speak, wow, go straight to the mind. Right. Like lions. Actually, as we go in our practice, spiritual practice, sometimes we have to be with lions also. And if we choose our friends well, our friends are like diamonds, Because diamonds, you can only cut one diamond with another diamond. You can't cut a diamond with something else. Because diamond is really a very hard substance. And that is why we should try to have regular Dhamma discussions, regular Dhamma practice, coming regularly together to do pujas and all that. Because it helps us grow, to cultivate these positive emotions. Alright? So, we should try to have this kind of a fellowship. So in conclusion, I would say that last week you have right thought, this week you have right emotions. So remember that we should always cultivate these good emotions in us. Develop not only our mind, but also our heart. But actually the Buddhist word for mind, chitta, it's not only the thought, not rational thought, but also the heart as well. So when we say you cultivate wisdom, or when you cultivate your mind, it means you try to develop the qualities of your heart, become a better person. Some people, when they grow old like a buffalo. They grow old, thick in the muscles. Only big body. The older they grow, the bigger they become, thicker their muscles. But let us all grow, that the older we grow, the wiser we become. Wiser means that we've got more wisdom about the nature of things as they really are, and also the quality of our heart becomes better, that we become a much better person. And when you become a much better person, the surest proof is that your life becomes increasingly happy, increasingly peaceful, less problems. If you have more and more problems, more and more conflict in your mind, that means you're not really, that means there must be some problems in your practice. So if you practice the Dharma, you will have less conflict in your mind, and you would have much more peace and happiness and harmony in your life. You have a very peaceful life, very happy and peaceful life. And you don't also cause your friends problem, because if you lead the Dharma, your friends will also be happy. Okay? So in closing, I would like to wish all of you good health and peace, and may all of you attain the final bliss of Nibbana. Okay, what hymn shall we sing this morning? Wesak Man. Let's turn to page 32. Light of Asia. This tells about the birth, renunciation, enlightenment, and passing away of the Buddha. In the land of the happy Sakis, for good and joy to all the world of man, the wisdom child, the precious jewel, unmatched, unrivaled, was born in Lumbini. We rejoice, St. Arthur Prince was born. We rejoice, for the truth's eternal sign. At 29, he left his kingdom, his wife, his child, to seek for truth's bright light. He wandered lonely in glades and forests to tend the blindness of dark illusions night. We rejoice, the triumph of fate to free. We rejoice, he rode in victory. Under the tree of wisdom, he sat in sound. We focus mind and feet. We focus mind and perfect wisdom. The world's deliverance, our teacher had attained. We rejoice, the hearts of life lay broken. We rejoice, our Lord emerged triumphant. Between two silent trees in meditation, submerged In kindness, our teacher passed away. Confounded things are all so transient. Your salvation with diligence you earn. These were words of our teacher, his final words to us. The Dharma and the discipline to guide us when he's gone. The Dharma and the discipline to guide us when he's gone. You've got a very strange mic, eh? As you all right. Just take. Let us turn to page 76 for right thought. Lead me on. Right thought will lead me on. Sorry. Okay. Right thought will lead me on to wisdom holy height and show to me the surest way to pass through sorrow's night. Right thought will lead me through the shadows of this life to ease my heart and peace assured and free my mind from strife. Right thought will be my guide across life's troubled sea. My pilot compass draw and chart. Right thought shall ever be. Right thought will keep me on the way to perfect peace and ferry to the other shore where all illusions cease.